A while ago, I talked about characters, the fact that they're static and dynamic, the fact that they're protagonists and antagonists, but in the end, what's important is how we relate to them.
And welcome back to the heart of the stories we tell. I'm Rob, the host, and this is another look deep into what makes a story, a theory on storytelling by a storyteller who believes that every story has merit. And tonight's episode is.
How and why we relate to characters. It actually goes into the whole thing that I've had up for a while now. Who is the character? Why is the character here? What does the character want? And that's really how we relate to these characters, what happens to them, and even if it's not important to the overall plot of the story, just the common part of human existence that we share with them. Now, yeah, there's a little bit weird going on when you worship or think that you relate to the antagonist, but I'm not going to say it's never happened. And let's be honest, some protagonists are kind of jerky. Now, overall, every character is a little bit unique. When I originally did a character video, I compared Lucy from the I Love Lucy show to Batman for every incarnation of Batman, and was able to draw quite a few parallels, because characters really are a lot more similar than you think. And the fact that you can take all of these tests to see which character you line up with in any given genre should showcase the fact that we use the same character archetypes over and over again. Because really, we're not that unique. We're all people, but at the end of the day, we relate to these characters because the characters are supposed to be too. Now, for those of you that don't know, what I do here is I review stories. I do them as they come out, plus Throwback Thursdays for older ones, and then I come up with theory videos like this to get to the root of, or as I like to say, get to the heart of the stories we tell. That sounds interesting? Click subscribe. But for right now, we're going to talk about how you relate to characters. And the first thing I said was, of course, what happens when you relate to the antagonist of the story? Well, that's not as crazy as you might think, especially when you think of these characters as flawed individuals that actually could exist in the real world. When you think about these people as people that have been pushed too far, how often have you been just pushed too far? How often has your life seemed like it's gone crazy and you're the only sane thing in it? Well, maybe you're just one bad day away from being the Joker. On the other hand, a lot of these tests are for a little more normalized of a situation. Well, whatever. I've been to plenty of bars, especially when I was younger, where people would have all said Rob when I came in instead of Norm. But to be honest, I'd rather have been one of the bartenders. Any of the three main male bartenders I would have rather have been. Something tells me I was probably Cliff. Yep, I was probably Cliff. But okay, let's just take a little in-depth look here. There are characters that you idolize. There are ones that you wish you could be. They're almost superhuman, or in some cases they are superhuman. They get the job done, they're the heroes, or maybe they're just the ones that are go-getters enough to be able to rise to power no matter what. Or maybe they're just such a smartass they always have the right thing to say, and just always have that something that makes you like them even though they're jerks. Or maybe they're just beautiful. Or maybe they're just destined for something. And you want to be that. And you know what? There's nothing the matter with saying, hey, I wish I were that character. But at the end of the day, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're just the supporting cast member. And that's okay too. And all of these tests are really just going into a little bit of depth into the idea of if you were in this situation, and a lot of these are unrealistic, even relatively normal shows, not even the superheroes or fantasy stuff I normally do, have rather outlandish concepts of what's going on in these people's lives. And which character are you? Which one do you wish you were? All is how we relate to these stories, how much we look at even in the superhuman moments. What character do you relate to because they have a normal problem? Me personally, you want to know when I relate to a character best? When they suffer the same sort of insecurities I do. When, even though they're the protagonist or antagonist of a series, they sit there and they go, oh man, am I good enough? Do people really like me? Oh man, did I just say that? Oh, did I just mess up royally? Oh, can't believe I just said that. That was stupid. Moments like that make them more human, more like me. and make me feel a little more connected to the story. But at the same time, those aren't always the characters I like the most just because I relate to them. Sometimes I really like the badasses, the ones that don't worry about any of that stuff, because that's more power fantasy. That's more, I wish I could be like them. And let's be honest, power fantasy, the idea that someday someone's going to tell you, no, you know all those bad things that have happened to you? They're not your fault, but you have this destiny. You're going to do something great with your life. There's just something that pulls us to that sort of storytelling. And that's why those stories are some of the most watched, most read, because we want to believe that. But at the same time, there are shows and movies that do the opposite. Hey, we're all in the same boat. We all have the same problems. And yeah, we can get a good laugh out of them. But at the end of the day, maybe that's just who we are. And that's okay too. Now, as I've said a couple of times, it's okay if you relate to the antagonist. But I want to talk about how you would relate to the antagonist. One of the big things that always bugs me in TV shows and movies and books and you name it, is that everyone's always so chipper and happy, when in the real world, almost everyone I know, even the chipper, cheery people, have depressed days, have days where they're like, oh, I'm surrounded by idiots, or oh, I don't feel like I belong. And you know what? Sometimes a really good, well-rounded antagonist can give you that feeling even more. This is a great quote about how the Disney movies handle a female character who is not a princess, but at the same time, a little depressed. Now, this statement right here, though, this is one of those things that you have to be careful of. It's one of those things that people talk about all the time, and we're going to get to that too. Because if you relate to the antagonist, there's nothing the matter with it. Yeah, okay. Sometimes I want to be Mufasa, but I feel more like I'm Scar. Because, I'm surrounded by idiots. Now, Scar is a cartoon character, and as such is cartoonishly villainous. But realistically, no one thinks of themselves as the villain. So if you're being true to yourself, you're probably just seeing something in Lex Luthor or in the antagonist that you can sit there and relate to. Over in the Gifted TV show I've been reviewing, I do it all the time. I see things from both sides of the coin, both the mutant and the mutant registration. Of course, it's better to relate to the hero of the story. It's better to get some information out of the tale, something that you can be positive about. But that's not always the case. And a lot of the times, we can even get a new interpretation of something by reading something and connecting with a character who's different than us. But that doesn't mean that at the same time we aren't being true to our own selves. But sometimes we get some things wrong. Like when we say this quote from Shakespeare. Do you realize that it's not what it means? Everyone uses it to, you should be true to yourself, but it really means you should just look out for number one. It's one of those things that we mess up when we look at characters, when we don't look at characters, I should say. When we don't look at who's saying what. I could do a whole video just on The Incredibles and the fact that everyone takes the syndrome thought process of, if everyone's special, then no one is, the wrong way. And before you think that something's a theme or symbolically what the author is trying to tell you, maybe you should take a look at the characters and whether you relate to them when they say the things. Because The Incredibles is full of amazing things. I could do a whole video on it. If you want me to, let me know. But like I said, maybe the new meaning of to thy own self be true is a much better one than the one Shakespeare meant. But it's not, again, what the context was supposed to be. And context is king, and context is all about character. Because one of the reasons I walk through the heart of the stories we tell is because we get a good look at the human condition, the idea of who we are and who we want to be and who we will maybe someday become. Now, some people say that because I only do mostly genre stuff and not actual literature, that's not quite the same, and that my stories that I'm reviewing aren't as valuable. But I think that when you look at the characters that we relate to, you see a lot more about us than you would think. But where do you come down on this? And what characters do you feel you can relate to the most? And what do you think it says about you or about someone else that they relate to them? Let me know in the comments below, and maybe we'll talk about this again sometime. For now, we've gotten to the point of the episode where I need to ask you to hit that thumbs up button and share this video. And of course, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. New year, new me, new push to try to hit that 100 subscribers. And when I do, I'm going to give away an Amazon gift card to someone in an AMA video. But for now, I'd like to thank you for watching this and for taking the time to think about what it means to enjoy a character or relate to them as we walk through the heart of the stories we tell. Have a good night, and thanks for watching.